In business, you never lose. You either win or you learn.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Branstetter, founder and podcast producer at MaxPodcasting. And you can email me at max@maxpodcasting.com to save time with your high-quality podcast. This is episode 205, and today's guest is Melinda Emerson. AKA the Small Biz Lady. Melinda is America's #1 small business expert. She has loads and loads of experience running small businesses, starting small businesses, selling small businesses, advising small businesses. That's a lot of tough to say, but the point is, Melinda knows a ton about small business, and in this interview, we talk all stages of small business, including coming up with the idea for your business, growing it, scaling it, which can kind of mean the same thing, as well as exiting it or passing it down to the next generation. It is the Small Biz Lady. Enjoy the show. Alrighty, we are here with Melinda Emerson, aka the Small Biz Lady herself, America's #1 small business expert. Melinda, so excited to talk to you today. Thanks so much for joining. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Of course. That's good, because if you weren't, that would definitely be getting off on the wrong foot. I'm so sorry. I literally made a foot reference right away. I'm so sorry, Melinda. We were just talking off record about your broken foot, and here we are, and I'm throwing it in your face. You feel free to sign off right away.
No worries. Everybody has hit me with all kinds of foot jokes since it happened, so it's all good.
And that one was, I'm usually very intentional with my jokes, but that one was unintentional. Anyway, let's get this on the right foot or left foot, whichever one's better. Melinda, so Small Biz Lady, we're going to talk about all different phases of growing your small business. So at the early phase, the established phase, even as you're looking towards an exit. But before we do that, you got your dream job at age 23, and within a couple years realized that this actually wasn't my dream job after all. Can you share us what happened there?
Well, it's the age-old story. You got to be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it, right? So when I graduated from college with a journalism degree, broadcast journalism degree from Virginia Tech, I was like, I want to work in top market television. I want to work in the top 5 market. And I got there. My second job out of college in the business, I got a job here in the Philadelphia area. I worked for NBC 10, and I also worked for 6 ABC. And what I realized was that what I thought that job was, or how I thought I would feel about doing that job, was very different when I was doing that job. It just wasn't that important. It just wasn't that meaningful. I mean, people only watch the news, honestly, for the weather and the sports. For me, it was like writing stories about murders and fires drained my soul. And I was like, I knew that I was put on this earth to do more than that. No shade to my brethren that still work in TV news, but it was not my jam. And I had to get out of there. And I, exited stage left. I was like, I got to figure out something else to do. So a year before I quit my job, I started working on my business. I started working part-time for a business like the one I wanted to start 2 days a week. So my 2 off days, I worked another job so I could learn how to run a production company, which is the business that I first started. And, one day somebody got on my nerves, in the middle of February sweeps, and I was like, I'm out. And people thought I was insane because A, I was making a whole lot of money. B, people work their whole careers to get to market for television. But C, I worked with people that I didn't even like or respect. And I was like, I got to get out of here, or I'm going to be the big story on Action News. So I left.
I remember when I was younger, my dad used the term bad news to describe the news because so many stories are negative, and it's overwhelming as a viewer. I can only imagine what it's like actually working there and having to come up with these stories and read these stories, and yeah, it's there's just so much negativity there. So I don't blame you for getting out quick. How'd your coworkers and friends and family react when it was, in the grand scheme of things, such a short time frame, only a couple years from you, quote unquote, landing your dream job to quote unquote exiting your dream job?
Well, there were people that were very fearful for me. I mean, I remember this conversation I had with my dad and him being like, "Are you sure this is what you want to do?" And I'm like, "Daddy, I cannot go back into a newsroom." At that point, I had been in three, and they were all progressively worse. And I was like, "Yeah, I can't. I cannot do this. I believe God has a bigger plan for me." And so he was like, "All right, if this is what you want." He always had this mentality of, if you like it, I love it. So you know he and my mom were like, "Okay, you just bought your house. Like, what are you doing?" But it worked out. I mean, I moved my kid brother in with me. He became my tenant and paid half my rent. I took out a home equity loan. I paid off every bill I had, even my car. Like, I paid off everything. So I got myself down to what I call bare bones bills. Electric, water, mortgage, cell phone, gasoline in the car. That was it. So and that's how I was able to build my business. I mean, I consider myself a spare room tycoon, because I built my whole business from my basement and, eventually became $1 million brand. And so for me, it was a lot of work and it was a very circuitous route because I started out doing video production. Then eventually when the technology was changing, we realized everybody was using our videos on websites. So then we were like, well, we better start building websites too. So then it was like, okay, we're doing videos, we're doing websites. But it was really interesting in 2005. So I don't know how young you are, but you look a little younger than me.
Well, you take that back.
You get in your time machine with me. Go back to 2005. I was married at the time. We got pregnant with my son, and I ended up on bed rest for 6 months. And 2005, Wi-Fi was not in everybody's house. So it wasn't like I could just take a laptop home and keep working. No, I was just at home. That's what I was. That's what I was. I was at home. I was going to the doctor 3 times a week getting testing done. They thought my child had a heart condition. Like it was probably like the most stressful time in my life. It was also the first time I had ever stopped. Like, I had been on go every day for years. I was a horrible workaholic. I used to work 10, 12 hours a day, and I made everybody that worked for me work like that. So I honestly believe God made me get pregnant so that he could stop me in my evil empire. And so it was like, okay, once I got home and I really started to reflect on how I ran my business and all of the expensive mistakes we had made, and then I realized while I was at home that I had made the number one mistake you can make in business. I had built a business that couldn't run without me. I hadn't built processes and systems for lead generation and for sales. And because I was the rainmaker. And when I wasn't there, there was no rain, right? So for me, it was the scary. I mean, the year that I had my son, we almost lost everything because my husband worked full time in my business too. So it was like our whole family revenue was coming from this business. And suddenly I'm pulled out of the business with a serious health emergency, something that I never would have thought of. I was 32 years old. Like, it wasn't like I was, 45 trying to have my first kid. I was like well within the window of when people should be able to have kids safely. But that's not what happened for me. And so in that time, I wrote down all these notes and thought about all the expensive lessons I learned. And then I thought about the other lessons that other people that I knew had gone through. And the bones of that eventually became my best-selling book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. Because what I figured out was is that I would have run my business better if I had had better advice. But back then, again, getting your time machine with me and go back to 2005, there was nobody in mainstream media giving people small business information. Literally, it was like Susie Orman and Gene Chatsky were giving people financial information about, 401ks and all this kind of stuff. But there's nothing else. There was nothing out here that if you had an idea, somebody had a roadmap for you to win in business. And I said, okay, well, you know what? I'm going to be that lady. Like, I am going to put myself in charge of ending small business failure. And I'm going to start by writing down every stupid lesson I learned. I mean, I think the reason why my book has been so successful and been in print for the last 12 years, it's in the third edition now from Simon & Schuster, is because I'm not the hero at the end of every story. I tell the truth about some dumb stuff that I did. And I think people appreciate the fact that I was that transparent to be like, yeah, this was some dumb stuff. Let me tell you what happened. But I think that what I learned from that, I think the biggest benefit for me starting my first business at 26 was that I knew I didn't know anything about business, right? I mean, I had a journalism degree. I didn't even know how to use Excel, right? So back then, everybody didn't have to use Microsoft Office. I knew how to use the broadcast news software that we use at work, but I didn't know.
Well, I mean, everybody knows how to use a broadcast news software. I mean, come on.
But I'm saying, like, they didn't make everybody learn Office. Like, I didn't know how to use PowerPoint. Like, I actually, I'm still bad at it, truth be told. But the point is that for me, I had to learn everything. Like, I had to start at, I knew how to tell great stories, but I didn't know how to run a business. And so I turned myself into a reporter, if you will, of running a business. I took a course every single year I have been in business. Probably out of my 23 years I've been in business, I've taken courses 16 or 17 years. I became a voracious reader of other people's business books. Like, I still believe that one of the best business books ever written was The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. But I have a library of books. I have a library of audibles on best business practice. And the reason why is because success leaves clues everywhere, right? So all you have to do is read about somebody else's business success or strategy that worked, bearing in mind that by the time they're telling you about it, it might be too old for you to do too. But then there's other people, like Jeff Walker's book launch. He put it out in 2014. He put out a newer edition a year or so ago. Both of those books are good, right? So I just think that you have to understand that you have to work on your own business skills, your leadership skills, your negotiation skills, certainly your marketing and sales skills, right? Especially because so much has changed. So much has changed even in the last 10 years in terms of sales and marketing, and the fact that social media is now the number one sales channel. I mean, there's just so much that has changed, and you had to change with it. Hey, now we all better be doing TikTok, right? Because TikTok is now the fastest growing social media platform.
Melinda, I have to stop you right there. You do not want to see me dancing, though.
Listen, there's a lot more going on TikTok other than people dancing. Now, there's plenty of people doing that, but TikTok University, there's people out here really selling information, really generating leads and sales, and you better be there too. I'm just saying.
I'll start stretching just in case the dance breaks out as well.
I did do one dance. I have to tell you, on my birthday last year, I did a dance on TikTok. I didn't do hardcore, but I did a dance to 50 Cent's Go Shorty, It's Your Birthday. And it was like, it went viral. I mean, it was crazy. Like, we posted it on Instagram and we posted on TikTok, and probably top video ever of me dancing to that. But that's it. There's no more dancing. You won't find no more dancing on my TikTok. I'm just saying, you won't. But on my birthday, I had to give it to him. Okay, I had to.
So you alluded to business skills on business skills, and first of all, thank you for tracking these things and sharing out your advice and your wins and the dumb stuff, as you say. I mean, sometimes I think people gravitate to the dumb stuff even more than the positive stuff, because we all make make dumb choices and mistakes as business owners. But I would love to talk about growing your small business. There's kind of the earlier launch phase. There's like couple years after that, or around that time frame when you start to be established and consistent. And then there's the mature or end of life for business phase where you're thinking about exit, or kind of how's someone gonna take the torch from me. So what is the number one thing a new small business owner should keep in mind when they're, launching and shouting from the rooftops, "Hey, I have a new business."
I think the number one thing that a new small business owner needs to keep in mind is who is their niche customer. I think a lot of times people get out here and they chase anybody that they think has money, or they chase this thing or that thing, or, oh, I heard people are selling on Amazon. Oh, I heard. No, you need to focus on your customer and what your customer needs and wants. And if you focus on your customer, if you position your business, and obviously I'm speaking of professional service businesses, but this is relevant to product based businesses too. If you position yourself as a service to your customers, that's how you'll win. If you view sales as helping and not as manipulating, as sleazy, hard sales tactics, all this stuff. No, no, no. If you really think about, you know, how are you going to help your customer win? That is how you win. You want to create win-win scenarios, but it's very hard. I mean, every small business has two things, and that's limited time and limited resources, right? So you have to pick a marketing target that you can actually hit, which is why niche marketing is so effective. And frankly, the more niche you are, the more you can charge, right? And I tell people all the time, who makes more money, your cardiologist or your primary care physician? Cardiologists I know drive Lamborghinis, right? So I think you want to figure out how you can become the cardiologist for whatever it is that you do.
And by the way, I'm loving the alliteration. I think you had bare bones bills earlier, and then with the rhymes you had spare room tycoon. I'm literally taking notes of these because I'm such a fan of rhymes and alliteration and corniness and analogies. But anyway, I think that's so spot on. I think the more focused you are, that's when people know what you do and when to refer people to you. We had a past guest who goes by the King of Clarity, who was just basically destroying UPS because on UPS vans they say worldwide services. Like if somebody says
What is
worldwide,
that? What is that?
they provide worldwide services. Like what's that even mean? But if you're super focused and they know that, hey, like we deliver in a 5 mile radius or something. Like we deliver your toiletries in a
I
five
mean,
mile
even
radius.
if they said worldwide logistics, like that would at least give you some context of what they're even talking about.
Yeah, exactly. So the more focus, that's fantastic. In terms of actually communicating, whether it be on social media or whatever marketing channel you're using, in terms of communicating to your customers and keeping the focus on value to your customers, not the sleazy sales stuff. What's that actually look like when it comes to, crafting messaging?
Well, again, it goes back to when you really know your customer, you need to craft messaging that is almost like you're having a conversation with them about the conversation they're having in their head. Like when you really know your customer, that's when you can craft a message and they are like, "Man, that I need her, right? I need that course. I need that book. I need that widget, whatever." When you can really be like, "Girl, I know you are, sitting at your desk and you are tired of your boss undervaluing you. You know you're meant to do more. I can help you. Have you always had an idea to start a business? Well, I'm the queen of helping people get free from a job. Come see me. I'd love to teach you about how to become your own boss." Right?
That was really good. Like I'm ready to do business with you, Melinda. I'm pumped up. That was really good.
I
Yeah, I
mean,
felt
but
it.
again, it's like I know who my customer is. My customer is a professional woman, 30 to 55, sitting in corporate America. They maybe have a business idea. They might even have a side hustle, but they're not making enough money to leave that job yet because they still need those health benefits for themselves and their family or their kids. I know who she is. I know how she feels because I was once her. I know exactly how she feels. Overworking for some unappreciative jerk off boss. Come on. I mean, I know exactly who this woman is. I know what her struggle is. I know she's extraordinarily talented. Maybe she's a chef. Maybe she makes jewelry. Maybe she's got an idea to create a logistics business. Maybe she's looking at the supply chain inside her company and going, our company outsources that. I wonder if I could create a business and they would outsource it to me. I mean, there's people sitting here looking at this stuff going, but they don't know how. They have ideas, but they don't know how. Executing a small business is hard. In the first few years of a business, your business owns you. You don't own your business, and so you don't start owning your business till maybe like 3 year 4, right? Those first 3 years, forget about it. I mean, it's hard. It's like and I don't know if you're a parent, but when you first have a baby and like you got to do everything for this baby, eventually the baby walks. You're like, okay, great. Then you're like, is the baby gonna talk, right? Then the baby talks. Then you're like, can I leave them for 5 minutes and take a shower without like something bad happening? You know what I mean? So you gotta still watch the baby. You gotta make sure the baby's okay. The baby's in a safe environment, playpen, whatever, right? You gotta have gates up because kids run away. You know what I mean? So all this stuff. So again, your business is the same way. You got all this stuff you got to figure out. You got to figure out who your real paying customer is versus who you think it's going to be. And then you got to figure out your price point and all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of upfront hypothesis testing, test messaging, test marketing materials. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's a lot of work, but it's like by year 4, you can be like drinking champagne when you're thirsty. I mean, you can start winning then, but you got to get there. And so many people flame out by year 5, so it's like, some people flame out by year 2 because they had a half baked business idea in the first place. But a lot of people flame out by year 5.
So once that baby is walking on their own and talking on their own and doing their own taxes, 401k, all that. Once your business is established, so let's say, and I have no idea of the stats to back this up, but let's go with the example of year 4, year 5. Once it's definitely more established than a brand new
Sure.
business. What is the number one mistake, or as you said, dumb thing you see small business owners do that hurts the sustainable life of that business over the years?
Well, when you get to year 4 or 5, that's when you start trying to figure out how to scale, right? How can you get more money for less work, or how can you be more strategic? How can you get longer term contracts? You've got to figure out, how can we get more revenue in here? How can we productize what we do? Do we have a methodology? Do we have systems? That's when you really start tweaking that kind of stuff, and you start looking at profitability. What are your most profitable products? When is your most profitable time of year? You have data now, so you can kind of look at the data sets about your own business and then be like, okay, how are we going to scale? Or what are we going to stop doing? What are we going to do more of? Is it time to bring on a sales team versus a sales person? Right. So you kind of looking at all these things, and then you got to figure out how you're going to pay for it. Are you going to be able to pay for it with existing sales coming in? Or is this the time you're now going to go borrow some money to grow your business? Right. So there's a lot of strategic decisions that have to be made. I'm a big fan of people at year 4 or 5 hiring coaches, like to really have a third party look at your business from the outside. But again, be careful about who you hire as a coach, right? You can't hire somebody who's just one step ahead of you, right? You need to hire somebody who's grown a business, sold a business, so that they can help you, right. So you need to make sure that you can verify their credentials on more than just Instagram, right? You know what I mean? And their Bentley that they rented to take pictures in front of, that is not the right coach for you.
How'd you know? You must have saw me taking pictures the other weekend.
I know people can rent planes and Bentleys. Let's just say that.
It's ridiculous. We actually were driving on the highway the other day, and we saw, literally, it was, I don't remember what brand it was, but it was a really expensive sports car like that. And there were literally people doing a photo shoot outside in front of it. And I was like, I don't. like people who actually own those cars, I don't think they would be doing a photo shoot in front of that dealership.
Exactly, but that's my whole point. And what's really sad now is that, my business has been corrupted by these people who basically sell you their lifestyle and they have no content and no information. And so people are like, I want to live like her. I want to wear those kind of clothes. I want to have a Bentley. I want to, travel with a little chihuahua on a private plane. It's like, listen, I have never shown somebody the inside of my home. I've never posed outside in front of my car because if the reason why you want to listen to me is because of what you think I have versus what you think I know, you are not the right client for me. So, I mean, but there's a whole generation of people chasing these people because of their lifestyle who don't even know anything that can help you. But they're really good motivators, they're really good salespeople, and they fleece people out of money all the time. And the people who coach with them don't grow. It's crazy.
What's the most effective way that you've seen to scale a business?
Oh man. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it. Certainly you can, hire a sales team and just ramp up your marketing. You can start buying a bunch of, Facebook ads and stuff and really drive leads, drive traffic. You can create, a high-end offer. So you can, create a private club kind of part of your business and get people to, be part of your private, group coaching program. You can acquire a competitor, and grow your business that way. You can start branching out into a new market. Let's say if you work in the commercial sector, you can start selling in the government sector. I mean, endless ways to scale a business. But the thing is that you got to make sure your main business is solid before you're trying to scale anything. The only way you can scale a business is if you document your processes and systems, if you have a team and make sure you got the right team, and then if you really understand what your profitability is and what your most profitable lines of service or products are. And once you understand that, then you can figure out how can we get more of this? How can we sell more of this? And is there a new line of business that is time for us to open up?
And you're someone who's, I mean, you mentioned at the start, like you've essentially documented like your whole small business journey and you've, turned it into books and your content and all. Like as someone who's like a new entrepreneur, a small business owner, it's kind of intimidating to think about like, wait a second, so much goes in every decision or like there's so much on my plate already. You want me to document the processes as well. I never know processes or processes. But you want me to document all this stuff as well, just so to smooth things out in the future. What's that
Yes.
look like?
Yes. Well, you really have to look at your tasks. Like, so one of the biggest challenges that small businesses have is being able to separate what I call queen bee work from worker bee work, right? So if your time is billable at $250 an hour, why in the hell would you ever enter your own data in a QuickBooks? Like, why would you do that when that's a task you can farm out for 35 to $45 an hour? Like, why would you ever do that? Especially if you don't like accounting and you're not good at it and you have no background doing it. It's like, don't do that. You know what I mean? So I think part of it is really documenting your tasks, documenting daily tasks, weekly tasks, monthly tasks, quarterly tasks, and then figuring out who really needs to do those, because you're not going to be able to hire people and train people if you don't have a documented system. How will they know how your t-shirt goes in the box with the tissue paper and two pieces of candy and the sticker over top of the tissue paper to go in the shipping? How do your shipping labels look on the outside of your packages? Nobody will know that if it's in your head, right? You got to document it. You got to write it down. And it's painful to do, especially if you've been winging it every day, but that it doesn't work like that. I promise you, when you get hired at Old Navy, they show you how to fold the shirts to make them look nice, neat in the stack. How do they fold the shirts at your business, right? Like, where's your training? Where's your tool? I mean, a lot of the biggest mistake that I see business owners make is they hire people and they basically throw them the keys and say, good luck. There's no onboarding. There's not a lot of training. We expect people to perform at a high level with no training, which is madness, right? So you need to make sure that even your interns, what is it that you want them to do? What are their deliverables? What is their execution steps, right? So you want to make sure that you have processes and systems to take work off of you. Like the reason why you want to document stuff is because as the business owner, you need to be focused on your most high valued activities. And let me tell you, your most high valued activity is customer acquisition and customer retention. That's it. That's what you need to be spending your time doing. The rest of this stuff is minutia, and you need to hire some people to handle minutia, right? But your job is to get customers and keep customers. That's your job as a business owner.
You framed it perfectly. Like if you think of the documenting piece and setting up these processes slashes and systems, if you think of that as rewarding your future self and rewarding your future business and your future team, I think it's much easier to stomach. All right, it's worth the time it takes to do this. Add more to my plate right now just to track all this stuff than the other way around. Because you're right, people, nobody knows how to do stuff that's super specific to your company, coming in from another company or whatever they were doing
No.
before. So that's incredibly helpful. One of my I have a love hate relationship with processes and systems because I know they're essential. I know they're super valuable when you're expanding your team, bringing on new people. But I also I feel like there's a fine line. Like at a certain point, businesses, especially I've seen in larger business and kind of the corporate world, there can be so much process and so much system that it literally slows everything down because there's so much training and there's so many steps just to get one thing done. What's your advice for setting up these processes and systems, but not going too crazy over the top to the point that someone's overwhelmed because there's so much I got to read and do just to, take a sip of water, basically?
Well, the cool thing is that there's so much technology that can help you. There's so much marketing automation software, CRM software, email marketing software. There's a lot of stuff that it's like once you set it up, it works, right? So yeah, it's a lot of work to set up a sales funnel, but once it's set up, cha-ching, cha-ching, it can start making you money once you test it and make sure it all works, right? So I think things like following up on invoices, you can automate that stuff through your software. Like reaching out to customers, you can do that. I mean, I'm a big fan of personal reach outs. I don't believe in automated software as it relates to sending out mass blanket emails to people, you on LinkedIn and stuff, like all these spam emails you get. Those don't sell crap as far as I'm concerned. But I think that you have to use technology strategically, but there's an app for that. I mean, there is an app for everything you're trying to do.
Wait, that's it. Wasn't that an Apple commercial? There's an app for that.
There's an app for that. I mean, so you want to make sure that you are leveraging technology. So once you document your processes and systems, then you go back to your list and be like, okay, what could we be using software for? And in this case, it might make sense to hire someone who is a digital transformation expert that could be like, hey, what software should we use? Should we be using Asana, project management software? Well, somebody's got to train everybody on Asana. You can't just buy it. You got to make sure everybody knows how to use it. Thus, then you can make everybody use it, right? So you got to make sure that you have an implementer. Like you don't just buy stuff, but that you train everybody on how to use it. And once everybody's using it, it'll be great. Or a CRM system is another one. We actually use Pipedrive in my company. And it's like, I make everybody go on Pipedrive's website, look at the training tutorial videos and stuff so that you know how to use it, right? Because I go in there once a week and check and make sure y'all doing it. So you want to make sure that everybody knows how to use it. You touch a customer, that's got to get documented so that we know. We want to build an archive on our customers. We want to make sure we know everything everybody in our company knows about that customer, right? So we document that stuff. And all of that stuff is really, 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 really important. Calendaring, all of that stuff, whether you use it Calendly, which I don't like that software, but I actually like another software called Mixmax because it's easier for me to just go in my email, give you 3 options. You click one, it goes on my calendar, it goes on your calendar. Calendly is like you could accidentally double book yourself because you're not looking at your own calendar when you use it. So it makes me a little nuts.
Well, this is why we're double booked for this interview. So thank you.
But my point is that you need to be looking at all the software options that are going to save you time, money, but you got to make sure your folks are trained on it. Don't just buy software and be paying for it every month and nobody's using it. That's crazy. Waste of money.
And to skip probably 10 to 20, 30, 40, 50 years, which I typically do as a podcast host, that's probably a great trait. But I want to hit on the later stages of your company, or at least your experience in your company. So if you're kind of getting towards that stage where, you know what, I'm ready to, fully retire or move into an advisory role, and you've had a great run for, years on years, the successful business. There's tons of different possibilities from an exit standpoint. Maybe it's a family business and you pass it down. Maybe it's you're selling the business to somebody. Maybe, maybe if it's big scale, you're doing the IPO route or acquisition. How do you go about deciding what's best for your company?
Well, I think it's not about what's best for your company. It's about what's going to be best for you. Right. So I think you've got to figure out as a bit, and it's funny that you asked me this question because this is something I've been working on. So
I knew it. You didn't tell me beforehand to ask you this.
well, I mean, I think you have to think about realistically, how much longer do you want to work? Like, how much longer do you want to drive the bus in your business? And then you've got to say, okay, do I have a business that I can sell? Because a lot of times I've been talking to a lot of consultants in this space. One of my good buddies is John Warrillow, who wrote this great book called The Art of Selling a Business. And John talks about how there's a whole lot of people think they have a business they can sell that they can't because their business is way too reliant on them. They haven't built a business that they could actually walk away from. They are their whole business. They have all the relationships with the customers. Everybody that calls on the phone wants to talk to them. That kind of stuff is bad. The other thing you got to think about is if you think you want to sell your business, you need to be planning and prepping for that 5 years before you think you might want to do that. Because there's things you have to have, right? Like audited financial statements for 5 years. There's stuff you have to have. You need to look at your pipeline. You got to look at your long-term contracts. Do you have something that you can sell? What are the risks to your business? You've got to look and see, is your industry changing? Is your industry growing or is it shrinking? Right? Then you got to say, okay, once you decide, all right, I'm going to sell, then you're like, sell to who? Am I going to sell it to my children? Am I going to turn it into an ESOP and let my employees have it? Am I going to sell it to a competitor? Am I going to try to sell it to a Fortune 1000? Like, who am I? Who is it that I'm trying to sell this thing to? Do I care who I sell it to? Right? I think what you care about is the amount of money that you end up in your pocket. But there's all kind of ways you can sell it. You can sell it for a straight cash transaction. You can do an earnout. Earnouts are scary, but you can do an earnout, particularly if you're selling to your kids or your family or something like that. You might not clobber them over the head to get all your money at first, but you have to make sure that you get what you need out of your business. And you have to make sure that all of your personal expenses that you run through your business, that you're going to make enough money to not run those through your business anymore, right? So those are lots of things you got to think about. But I think that there are checklists and things out here that you have to think about that will help you evaluate where you are is what work you have to do in your business to step out of your business. What kind of assets do you have? What kind of debt do you have? There's so many things that go into it, but you need to be planning for it 3 to 5 years easy before you make any transition. And then you've got to be serious about the transition. I've seen people sabotage transitions because they want to turn it over to their kids, but they're still micromanaging everything. They don't really turn it over. Or they just want to get paid and leave and they don't want to help at all with the transition. People don't like that either. So you have to have some kind of balance, but you have to know who you are and if you're really ready to retire. Are you really ready to walk away? I mean, I think that's the thing. And how do you want to do it? You want to do it with a bunch of money in the back seat? Like, how do you want to do it? And do you even have something that you can sell? I think a lot of people think their businesses are way more valuable than they are. You've got to go about getting a formal valuation of your business, because usually businesses sell for some multiple of EBITDA, which is, earnings before taxes, right? So, you really have to figure out, are you going to get 3 times, 4 times, 5 times EBITDA? I've seen people get 10 times EBITDA, but that doesn't happen a lot. A lot of times people get a lot less than they think they're going to get. So I think that it's really important for you to know your numbers You know your margins, know your pipeline. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into, making a transition out of a business if that's what you think you want to do.
You got to know your numbers, and you got to know if podcasting is right for you. Oh, great segue, Max. If you are interested, this is the corniest one. Yeah, I'm just rolling with it. I'm not editing this at all. But if you think podcasting might be a good fit for you and your business, or maybe even your personal brand, go to MaxPodcasting.com, sign up for the Podcasting to the Max newsletter. That will quickly, very, very soon, become your go-to place for podcasting tips, podcasting insights on the hosting and production side, as well as behind-the-scene stories and behind-the-scene scenes from the Wild Business Growth Podcast. That is the Podcasting to the Max newsletter, all at MaxPodcasting.com. Now, let's transition to a shout-out of the Wild Business Week Variety Weekly. So speaking of transition, let's transition to a fan favorite segment called the Wild Business Shoutout of the Week.
The Wild Business Shoutout of the Week!
Okay.
Thank you. It's inspired by Indie Club. Wild Business Shoutout of the Week. This is where we talk about a creative marketing or buzz marketing, a just really creative approach that was outside of the box that we've seen. And Tony Robbins, obviously a huge name. I would venture like even maybe 6-month-old babies know about him. He's pretty much everywhere. But what is something that Tony did recently that caught your attention?
So last week, Tony Robbins did a free 5-day challenge. I have never, in all of my years in business, seen Tony Robbins do something free, like ever.
I was gonna say, I thought it was
Like,
going in that direction.
Ever, never. Right? I've never seen it. He did a 5-day challenge with his partner Dean, and they were promoting a new program specifically for people who want to get in the self-help, self-education market, and they called it Project Next. But I mean, it was like an all-star, obviously Tony had to kick it off, right? Because Tony Robbins is like, and it's funny because I've actually never seen him live before. And it's weird that I haven't seen him live, but I've never seen him live, and I got a chance to watch him, and he really is the master. I mean, it was like sitting at the feet of like the grand dam of our whole industry, and he's amazing. But then after he and Dean did their thing, then they just had this like parade of all-stars come behind them. I mean, Russell Brunson, Brendan Burchard, Lisa Nichols. I mean, it was like watching the A-Team, right? I mean, it was like Super Friends, and it was free. I mean, literally, it was free. They had a $47 VIP upgrade. I mean, it was like, I was like, what is going on? I was like, why would Tony Robbins offer something so inexpensive? And then at the end, they did their offer, and I was waiting for it because I was like, there's an offer at the end of this. I know there's an offer, and their offer was only $997. Like $1,000 to work with them. And I was like, is this April Fool's Day? Am I being punked? Like, what is going on? But what I realized was later on, they had 900,000 people sign up for their free 5-day thing. And if you just do simple math, even if 400,000 people did the VIP upgrade, they made 20 million before they even opened the cart for their offer. Third day, they opened their cart. I mean, they had Matthew McConaughey that day. I mean, it was like crazy. Like
I think that's the real secret to a successful run.
But it wasn't just them. It was they had built this program. They did such a great job of welcoming people and making people feel special. I mean, part of the reason why I did it, I just was almost like funnel hacking. Like I just wanted to see what their landing pages and what their offer was because I'm a nerd. I really wanted to see that stuff. But at the same time, I was like, Tony Robbins doing an offer for $1,000? You got to be kidding! But it was a volume game. I mean, think about it. He had 900,000 people worldwide on a live stream for 5 days. 900,000 people. So even if 10% bought, which more than typically in an offer like that, 30% of the people will buy. So, I mean, I was just doing the math going, holy macaroni. Like, I was really impressed. I was really impressed.
It's a crazy time. I mean, it's a really, really good time as a customer slash consumer that so much, like a crazy amount of value is given away these days for free. And obviously there's, like the example you talked about, a lot of times if it's a more extended thing or like a webinar or course or something, like there is an offer and there's always price up, premium options tied to it. And that's how they make money. But at like the entry level, there's so much you can learn for free these days, and it's incredible. And like podcasts and YouTube, and like you can there's tutorials for everything.
YouTube University. What is the number one thing people search for on YouTube? How to do whatever.
Yeah, how to do whatever would be an interesting search. I'm going to do that right after this, but it's I think it's really really clever of them. I mean, did you know, by the way, you said you've never seen him live? I've never seen him live either,
I had
but
never seen him live. I had been meaning to for years, and just for whatever reason, I didn't. But Tony Robbins is the man. I mean, you can't even, you know, I mean, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of this whole thing. And he's been doing it 45 years, though. And he tells his story. He's been doing it since he was 17. He was a protege of Jim Rohn. And he says it, right? So I'm like, okay, got it, you know?
he's 6'7" as
Oh,
well. Like he's
yeah.
literally a larger than
Oh,
life
yeah.
figure.
He's like Clark Kent, but like not Clark Kent. Yeah.
That is a super way to transition to some rapid fire Q&A. Let's wrap up with some rapid fire Q&A. You ready for it?
I'm ready.
All right, let's get wild. What is a behind the scenes fun fact from working at a newsroom that you think most people would be surprised and curious by?
Most of the anchors are really short.
We go from Tony Robbins height to short news anchors. That's great. I'm picturing horse jockeys now all of a sudden. I don't know why. Philadelphia, which by the way, my fiance Dana and I are watching Always Sunny right now. So there's a lot of Philly on our TVs right now. But what's your favorite part about living in Philly?
Oh, the food. The food. Oh, we have the best restaurants on the East Coast, and we're like a third cheaper than New York City restaurants. And our restaurants rival New York City restaurants all day, any day. Food in Philly is amazing.
Living super close to New York and having lived in New York, that hurts a little bit because yeah, it's not cheap here. First thing that comes to mind, what's a restaurant in Philly people should definitely check out?
Tequilas at 16th and Locust. It's a 5-star Mexican restaurant. They've got 54 types of tequila on the menu if you're into that.
Sold.
But their seafood is amazing. Their crab guacamole, oh my Lord, it's amazing. So I love to take people there when they come to visit me.
That sounds good. I mean, literally just the name, maybe even the first syllable, you had me. So we'll check it out soon. What is your favorite creative hobby or way to unplug?
I love to binge watch stuff on Netflix.
What's your favorite bingeable show right now?
Oh gosh. I'm a big Ozarks fan.
Amazing. Yeah, we just wrapped it up.
I'm a big Virgin River fan too.
What is your biggest pet peeve? Could literally be about anything.
Poor customer service.
Last one, you have spoke and lectured at hundreds and hundreds of colleges and universities. What's the coolest college town you've ever been to?
Blacksburg, Virginia.
Okay, that's a little bit of bias there. Your alma mater, but no, it does seem like. All right, all right. How about other than Blacksburg? What's your favorite college town?
You know what? When I spoke at MIT in Boston, that was really cool. Actually, Cambridge was nice. Like it's beautiful there.
It's a shame they don't have a good reputation. I mean, MIT people are like, not really committed, and nothing good comes out of it. Well, Melinda, thank you so much. This has been fantastic, and just so much value on value. I mean, really, really appreciate all you do for small businesses and all you give back and your books. And we didn't even talk about it, but Small Biz Chat is fantastic. And so, thank you so much for coming on. Where's the best place? Where's your favorite place for people to connect with you and learn from you?
Oh gosh, well, I would love for people to follow me as Small Biz Lady on all of the social platforms. And if you want to come over to my website, you can head over to smallbizladyuniversity.com and check out all of our courses and materials. And certainly grab a copy of my book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. It's in its third edition. So check it out.
Perfect. Times three. Last thing here, final thoughts. It could be a quote, a line. You can dance to your favorite song again on TikTok. No, I'm just kidding. Whatever you want, send us home here.
Well, you know what? In business, you never lose. You either win or you learn.
And there is plenty to learn and win, but also to learn from. Thank you so much, Melinda, for coming on the podcast, sharing your tips, your stories, your advice, your alliteration and acronyms, and all sorts of plays on words. Have my heart. And thank you so much, Wild listeners, for tuning in to another episode. If you want to hear more wild stories like this one, make sure to follow the Wild Business Growth Podcast on your favorite app and tell a friend about the podcast. And maybe even start a small business with them. That's probably, pick your order of which of those two you do first. You can also find us on Good Pods, where they are fantastic, and of course, Good Pods. And for any help with the podcast production, you can learn more at MaxPodcasting.com. And scroll down on that homepage and sign up for the Podcasting to the Max newsletter. Until next time, let your business run wild.
Bring on the bongos!